Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Zan, and thank you so very much for tuning in. And of course, thank you so much, Nadiya Shah, for inviting me again to be your guest on your channel. It is such a great joy, honor, privilege, and it's a dream come true, really, to be one of your guest speakers. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon taking place in the sign of Capricorn on the 21st of July 2024. Now, this is quite a powerful and really rare and special full moon because it is a second full moon in the same sign. For the first full moon, we have to go back on the 22nd of June when we had another full moon at around 1 degrees of Capricorn. So that's the very beginning of the sign. That's an alpha moment. But of course, every full moon it is a culmination of the lunar cycle. So it always has something to do with endings, completions, something coming to fruition. But of course, every full moon is an opposition where the sun and the moon stand across the sky from one another. So the sun illuminates the moon. The sun gives the moon its luminosity. So the light factor here symbolically sheds a light on something, it reveals something. Moon, it is always the symbol of the emotional and, of course, the unconscious. So, usually at a full moon, something comes to the surface, something is there for us to look at. And this particular full moon is very, very, very strongly about big truths, big revelations, perhaps even secrets coming out, and more than one element which will speak to this full moon points to that. One of them is a conjunction with Pluto. Pluto is the truth, the hardest, the darkest, perhaps, truth to look at or to sit with or to analyze, process, and ultimately integrate into our lives as a power, because Pluto always represents some kind of power. And it is really many times, maybe not always, but many times, up to us to decide if whatever that Pluto signifies is going to be our master, so it will have power over us, or vice versa, where we will claim it as our power. So, this particular full moon, besides so very many different things, is also going to be about this. Because going back to the first full moon at 1 degree of Capricorn, this is going to take place at 29 degrees of Capricorn, a very, very notorious degree. It is a critical degree, it is a culmination, it is very shadowy, very heavy, very dense. But because it is elimination, anything that happens here basically is when it exits, it's being eliminated from a sign, and it will enter another sign, a totally new territory, astrologically speaking, of course. So whenever we have 29-degree activities, that usually means a strong elimination, a very karmic, because what happens after elimination? Well, usually a new beginning or a void that's going to be filled later on, or a moment of truth that might change a lot. Once in feeling the moon, but this is Capricorn. So what we need to understand about the sign of Capricorn, that it is always the backbone of something, regardless from which perspective we look at it, or let's say which house it would be, which area of life, it is always the backbone of something. More esoterically speaking, Capricorn is the stage of manifestation. So when something that was a thought, an emotion, a fantasy, something in spirit or in thought enters reality, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So the ruler of this full moon is Saturn, so quite heavy, quite impacting and realistic. Both Saturn demands a certain touch of realism, even if it's in Pisces. Pisces is definitely unrealistic from so very many different perspectives. It is the ether, it is the spirit, it is the dream. It can never have a real shape and form. Saturn is the opposite, it demands a certain kind of shape and form or structure or something. Alchemically speaking, Saturn is dry. Saturn brings the end. Saturn is the site which harvests. So it marks the ending of a cycle. And in the sign of Pisces, it gives a great deal of subjectivity. Saturn demands real and objective, but Pisces makes this energy that we are the judges of this. Saturn also judge many times. So we have to decide what something purely subjective comes as a truth for us personally. So we need to analyze something in a very, very deep Plutonian way. For example, psychoanalysis, or spiritually speaking, or for us to sit with a truth or with a feeling, something that is being revealed to us, and then give it a meaning. But this energy asks us to give it a meaning that is powerful and that will represent a power in our lives. Maybe in a more immediate sense, but not just because this full moon, it takes place in a period when there are very powerful karmic energies playing out. Because not so long ago, for example, on the 15th of July, we had the Mars and Uranus conjunction on top of Algol, the notorious malevolent star, the head of the Medusa. And we saw how that played out in a very literal way. For example, Donald Trump's assassination attempt, Algol, the head was there. Mars, the fueled anger or whatever passion fueled this. And Uranus, the unexpected, the surprise factor. But also, it doesn't go the way it's planned. So Uranus, expect the unexpected. This was such a good example. But anyway, the head and another energy that played out, all of this was opposed by a trans-Neptunian object. And the easiest way for us to understand trans-Neptunian objects, dwarf planet, is like Pluto's, because Pluto is almost like the king of the trans-Neptunian objects. Pluto's brothers and sisters or relatives, Pluto's army in the background, that us astrologers are just studying now. All of them are a mystery for all of us. We're just observing them, communing with them, channeling them. And this is how we are giving them a greater purpose in astrology, but not the astrology that we are living, the astrology of the future, perhaps our grandchildren or stuff like that. So that trans-Neptunian object, so further it is from the sun, the heavier, the more hidden, the more subtle, but very powerful. And her name is Ceto. Ceto is the goddess of the ancient ocean, mother of all sea monsters. For example, Cetus, one of the most famous ones in Greek mythology. So Ceto is the symbol of the unconscious, of Tiamat, if we want to include another mythology, the Sumerian mythology, the deep unconscious that devours everything. So it even devoured, the energy of Mars and Algol and Uranus together, in the sense that it didn't allow the assassination to perfect. So the sky is really, really speaking to us right now, and this full moon is one of those celestial conversations where we are wise to listen to everything that it says, especially know deeply personally from our interior. Why? Pluto. Pluto is both the collective, of course, and we are one of many, but that many, if it acts like one, that's great power. But at the same time, the primary component of the collective is the individual that also matters. And all of the Aries placements speak about the importance of the individual and its sovereignty as well. So going back to the full moon, I think that it is much more important to understand its components, to understand its esoteric, spiritual, but also, even physical nature, than to just make predictions or to give guidance. Because this is where, if we understand what it's doing, we are our own advisors, and under Uranus, very active in the present moment still, this is very much needed from us. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So this is how this full moon looks like from an astrological perspective. Let me just mark the opposition of the sun and the moon. Sun at 29 degree of Cancer, energetic degree of Cancer, so very deeply emotional. And also, this is where the sun is in the house, in the sign of Cancer, the throne room of Cancer, of the moon, sorry. The sign of Cancer is what the rule moons. So the sun is the moon's guest. So there is a very strong synergy between the two. It's a very powerful full moon, even in this sense, that the sun shines with great intensity, with that 29 degree, that critical, karmic, even shadowy intensity. So it reveals the heaviest stuff. That's right off the bat. That's the first thing. And as we can see, it is conjunct Pluto, retrograde in Aquarius, very, very strong here, because Pluto himself has his eye, like a bullseye, exactly on that degree where the full moon is at. That's where Pluto is going back towards, activating it, building on that. So this has a touch of prophecy as well onto it. It will reveal to us what Pluto is preparing in the coming months, this summer and autumn, basically. Because if I'm not mistaken, Pluto retrograde ends in October, so that's when Pluto will start making its way back into Aquarius. But all those months will basically build the will be the manifestations of what this energy reveals to us. And if and there is a power factor here, Pluto, power. What we allow to have power over us. And Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius. And this is an outer sign conjunction. So Aquarius affects Capricorn. And this is again so strikingly out there, obviously symbolic. The power of masses, the power of people, the signatures of Aquarius, freedom, humanitarianism, liberty, everyone matters, the power of community, the power of people, basically. So Pluto, the power of this, affecting Capricorn, top-down authority, power structures, leaders, the head of, and big corporations, big anything basically, countries and the international community, who rules it, the big players really on the world stage, because Capricorn is the world stage. So something is being illuminated there very strongly. But there are so very many things that happened since the first full moon, 22nd of June. So you can imagine that there is a lot of topic to be discussed and to basically shed light on. But when I say shed light, there is another factor here that we really, really need to consider. Neptune is also energetic, and Neptune does speak with this full moon. Sextile with the moon and trine with the sun in the sign of Cancer. So that's a water trine. Okay, trines are always supremely harmonious, as Nadiya always says. They are flowy, blessing, especially Neptune. It feels good. It is like a dream, divine, spiritual. We are really connected to the soul powerfully, especially with Sun in Cancer. The emotions are there. It's like a big dream. But remember Saturn? The reality stark factor is the ruler of this. And also remember that the moon is further away from home in the sign of Capricorn. So, the emotions are a bit restricted. It's heavy. The moon cannot be, it's very flowy and, I don't know, very watery self, because the water is almost like it's absorbed into like a spongy material. It's there, but it's absorbed, so it's not free. That's the best analogy to use. So we must consider that how real all of this can be, because Neptune's dark side and 29 degree is also the dark, the karmic, the heavy, the everything may be just an illusion, smoke and mirrors. We cannot trust any information that's out there because we see it clear. Saturn in Pisces, the reality check. We see it, we know it, we feel it that it's misleading. So the only option here for us to decide ourselves. So we must use this correctly. We must not give way to delusions or, for example, Capricorn full moon in anoretic position with all that happened with Uranus and in the world and the protests and all that is happening, it there is gonna be a scary side. There is gonna be a emotionally triggering side where oh my goodness. But we must choose how we react to it, how we take it in, because this Saturn and Neptune and Pisces asks us to be truly masters of our own reality. That doesn't mean ignorance. That doesn't mean it's not happening. No, it is happening. I'm aware of it. But in my reality, I am the one who chooses how to interpret that and what it means to me personally. I can choose to cancel, have the shell on, and not allow that to divert me from my true hopes and dreams and aspirations and what I feel, what I'm creating, what I want to project on reality, because that's Aquarius, the duality. That's how it works. Reality impacts me and my moods and states and financial situation, for example. Yes, absolutely. A good chunk of that doesn't depend on me, absolutely. But the other way around is also true. There is that chunk which depends on me. For example, Capricorn, deeply personally, is the ruler of the 10th house. The 10th house is exactly what impact we, our works, efforts, strive, whatever, has on the collective, on the world, or put that in context. For example, a career will impact basically a community, an industry. Any career impacts in a small way an industry, for example, a career. Yes, an industry. I do believe that's the best way to describe it. A branch of something. So it's very important. It's very impacting. But where I want to go with this is that it has power, so we need to choose what it means for us. This is where we have the power. What we must not allow the scary part, because it's not going to be just scary, it's also going to be very useful, very constructive. Even if it's like an elimination, this can eliminate something that might have blocked us for years, or a truth that is hard, but it's liberating. It frees us. The truth sets us free. So, collectively speaking, as well, the truth will set us free, but it is us who need to give a meaning to that truth, not the opposite way. Because right after this full moon, the moon itself moves into Aquarius, making a conjunction with Pluto. Sun the other next day into Leo, opposing Pluto immediately. So that's something which sinks in deeply, and it might be a bit hard for the ego, or it might leave us feeling powerless a little bit. But still remember, Pluto, the truth sets us free. So moving on, another thing that I find very, very special, powerful, liberating, however, still dual in the sense that we have to make it our own. Look, this Mars just entered the sign of Gemini. So it left 29 degrees of Taurus, another 29 degree. Which means it immediately holds a trine with Pluto. The two powerhouses in astrology, Pluto is Mars's higher octave. Power, action, choice, Mars in Gemini. But Pluto in Aquarius, communication, information, technology, the power of the world, mercurial factors. In a moment, we have to look at Mercury because it is gonna make very important conversation. But let's Mars. So action, power of words, power of information, but this can also mean a bit overwhelm Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter doesn't converse yet with Mars, but it expands Gemini. The information being shared is too much. Hence, we need to detach and make it our own. And Pluto and Aquarius, technology, the collective, social media, the masses of people, humanity's collective consciousness, which is basically the internet right now. And speaking about the internet, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, Mars conjunction, the disruption of the IT systems, how beautifully astrology played out, like clockwork, really. So, and these planets, so Pluto, Mars, hold a grand trine, air trine with Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Libra, where also the South Node is. I find this energy very, very empowering because Black Moon Lilith and Libra, the positive side, let's say, is the stark truth in relationships, in justice. Now, Black Moon Lilith in Libra is, if Libra is the law, the legal system, well, then Black Moon Lilith is, if the law itself is corrupt, then following it is the bad choice, right? We don't know. It is up to us to decide. That is Black Moon Lilith's question in Libra. But this energy is also about partnerships. If you know that a partnership, a contract, a situation, an alliance, a one-on-one is not gonna do you any good because you already know the pattern, South Node in Libra. You know how it plays out because you see the red flags. Well, then make the right choice, if you know what I mean. But another expression of this energy, a big compromise, Pluto, Mars and Gemini negotiation, back and forth, ping pong with ideas and discussions. If a compromise is Black Moon Lilith, so rawly ideal that you cannot be principalistic anymore, that might be a great solution to the situation. But keep in mind that this grand trine, I know it's a harmonious aspect and it should be a big blessing, but it blesses also dishonest people. You know what I mean? So cons, and so be very careful under an erratic Neptune with suspicious emails, phishing, impersonations, especially using technology. I'm not sure the appropriate term. There is a term where they use artificial intelligence to animate someone's picture and make videos. You probably know that will reach the news and media. Mars and Gemini is the media, really. Mass media. Jupiter in Gemini. The mass media is busier than ever. And speaking about the mass media, Jupiter sextiles Venus, Venus in Leo, Leo celebrities, leaders, kings, royalty, etc., etc. So the Leo energy, the VIP, the spotlight is on, it's there, and Jupiter and Gemini speaking about sharing information. And Venus is also values currency, so stuff like that. Then Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini, uh, holds an exact to the degree square, and Mercury is in shadow, on its shadow path, because it will go retrograde on the 4th or 5th, something like that, of August. So it's setting up the themes. Square Uranus, sudden, unexpected communication, words that change things around very quickly. Is it true? Is it not true? Discussions. It's really good for inspirations, epiphanies, eureka moments, sudden inspiration, sudden realization, but not so good for things to go as planned, and impulsive speech, especially Mars in Gemini. Mars is god of war, right? Okay, a primitive approach, but still Gemini, angry words, fist fight, um, and Mercury, the ruler, and fiery Leo, squaring Uranus, the electricity and the unexpected. So this can even be conflictual, but words can wound very deeply, so be very careful. And especially that the full moon, something shocks us emotionally. Some we'll see later on when we look at the signs what that can be for each sign individually. But for now, we're still looking at the components of this energy. And okay, the ruler of the full moon, Saturn, right? On Saturn makes two very important aspects. On one hand, it is conjunct with an asteroid, Centaur asteroid named Nessus, a Centaur in mythology. Its symbolism is about betrayal, backstabbing, because it tricked Hercules' wife into poisoning him. He lied, basically. He made up a story. And speaking about Capricorn, his father, Ixion, is a trans-Neptunian object, so Pluto brother, one of Pluto's gangs, is actually in Capricorn, and Ixion is the symbol of lawlessness. But also, like Black Moon Lilith in Libra, if the law is the problem, if the law is unholy or not according to the divine laws, then it must be challenged. So Saturn is conjunct Nessus, which means it is our utmost duty, retrograde Saturn retrograde is internal, to not fall for deception. We need to be, I wanted to say sane, but actually it's not even exaggerated, because under this energetic Neptune, reality feels so very a bit bipolar, or so surreal. So we have to hold a grip on sanity, on groundedness, at least as much as we can, especially that this full moon will definitely demand it. And Saturn trines, um, I'll show this on my screen. Um, an asteroid, Pallas Athena, in the sign of Scorpio. Pallas Athena is symbolic of tactics, wisdom. She is a very, very tactical energy, because she was born from the head of Zeus. She and fully adult. So she never had a child phase, naivety phase. She is like the proper, real deal tactics, the modus operandi that get us there. Or she also has a Martian side. If tactics and wisdom and knowledge and diplomacy negotiation, you get what I mean, doesn't work, raw force works. And Scorpio is notorious for both for the most sophisticated tactics to get us there, the scorpionic mean, but also if it doesn't work, then the raw scorpionic force. So a trine, this is where I see this as our inner. Now put this into context for yourself. Instinct, intuition, gut feeling, inner knowledge, a natural, down to earth logic, basic instinct, call it whatever you want, that gives us a very, very powerful GPS guidance. Like, take it, when geese or other birds travel continents, how do they know where to go? And they can find the exact place, not roughly, not grosso modo, but the exact tree, if you know what I mean. How do they know? Nature's own GPS, the Earth's core, which is like one tick. So we also have that. And Pallas Athena asks us to trust something based on self knowledge. Are we more intuitive? Are we more instinctual? Are we more raw, rational? Whatever we are, there is something that we can trust to discern what the truth is for us. And this is Nessus conjunct Saturn. So there's that side of this energy. Um, Now, moving on, I'm just taking a look at my notes. Now, there is another really, really powerful symbolism playing out here. And that is given by a very small little asteroid that is exactly conjunct by degree the full moon in the sign of Capricorn. And her name is Kassandra. Now, Kassandra was a prophetess in Troy, if I'm not mistaken. And this is how the story goes that she was obviously very, very beautiful. And she was approached by Apollo that if she, you know, shows him a good time, he will bestow Apollo, the sun, the gift of prophecy onto her. She said yes, but after the gift, she refused him. So Apollo cursed him that, okay, you can be even the best prophetess that anyone has ever seen, but no one ever will believe you, especially that prophets were not allowed to name events because the three fates would punish them severely. For example, like um, Chiron's daughter was turned into a horse, a mare, because you know, female horse, because she foretold her father his fate that he's gonna receive the wound and become immortal. I mean, leave his life and become a constellation, and she was punished. But Kassandra could very well name anything because no one would believe her. So, what is Cassandra's symbolism, we might ask? Well, this is more than one approach. And she's retrograde, so something from the past. What was suspected or foretold, or maybe something that was deemed like a conspiracy at the time of this full moon, a truth revelatory, something seems to be quite real, and still we have to doubt it, energetic Neptune, but it can also mean quid pro quo. If you received something, well, you have to fulfill your end of the bargain or else. And Capricorn, top down authority, the top power players, uh, those who make the big decisions. If they promised something, and let's go back to the 22nd of June, they have to hold their promise necessarily, or else Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, the collective will not be forgiving. Is not going to be a very beautiful sight. So again, let us just take a look at how Cassandra's symbolism will play out. Is it about some kind of prophecy? And when I say prophecy, it doesn't have to be the mythical, the mythological, spiritual type, financial predictions, political predictions, polls, statistics, or scientific predictions. Any kind of prediction. What will be revealed at this moment will be very important. So there is that side. And also, is it about a bargain? Or is it about, again, the symbolism of Capricorn, top down authority, promised something to the Pluto in Aquarius, the collective, people, for example, where a government promises something to the nation. This is a very, very good example how that promise is being executed because Capricorn manifestation, the executory quality of it is good. But anyway, Mars in Gemini, trining Pluto, it's gonna be out there informationally, super tumultuously. So remember Jupiter sextile Venus. And also another element which I would like to mention is that there is the Sabian symbol for every degree of the zodiac, and those are so very symbolic many times in the sense that they really highlight the let's say karmic nature of the event so beautifully. And the Sabian symbol for this 29 to 30 degree of Capricorn goes like this: a secret business conference. This is so spot on, I would say, isn't it? What does it mean? So obvious. Something is being discussed, something important, a big choice, a big decision, a big what to do. Behind the scenes, in the background, the big, rich, powerful, the leaders make a big choice, and probably that is being dished out. But give or take a day in the moment of the full moon. So, for example, the ruling of the International Court of Justice might be an element to this because Jupiter in Gemini. It's big, it's important, it's highly subjective. It's not, how should I say, executory, and I mean it is not going to be enforced in any way, shape, and form. It is just pure philosophy, but how important and impacting it is. So it's already playing out what I'm saying because I'm recording this on the 20th. So, and another element is that what maybe whatever was already discussed in the background is now going to be revealed and how we react to it. And there is a power. I don't necessarily want to mean struggle because Mars trines Pluto after all, so it is a harmonious aspect. But how the power dynamic is going to play out. And truly, last but not least, Pluto is on top of a fixed star called, now please excuse my pronunciation, I don't know how to pronounce it, so Tara Z something like this. Um, the plundering falcon, that's how it is called. So this fixed star is notorious for plundering, for the spoils of war and conflict. It is also something which stirs up very, very, very strong passion. It is like a strong uprising energy. It is also related to clairvoyance or massive revelations which shed light on something. So Pluto here, Pluto on top of this, uh, which means that Mars joins it. So something really, really hits the news. So this is the collective energy. We get it. But individually speaking, where does this 29 degree of sorry, Capricorn fall into your chart? Which area of life is it? Something is revealed or a culmination, a completion. If you have any planets or angles around this degree, it can be that much more intense. Even if it's not going to play out in a really physical way, although Capricorn does have a very strong element of materialism, physicality, as in it might affect life in a real sense. Even if it doesn't, an emotion can be powerfully transformative. Pluto transformation, or 29 degree with Pluto elimination. Something is being released. Something comes out of the closet. A secret someone shares with us. We share, or an emotion that we can no longer sweep under the rug. A truth, a feeling, a It can be so very many things. Looking at it, staying at it, gives us power over it, even if it's hard. And we must not forget Neptune's aspects, trining the sun, again, Neptune and erratic Pisces, washing it away, dissolving, cleansing. We can either look at this as the strongest vitriol acid, which will dissolve even metal, or as the most pure, uh, blessed water, the holiest water that sweeps away any negative energy. Both are an erratic Neptune and Pisces. But anyway, it cleanses, it washes away, it it can even do so with very, very heavy feelings and emotions, traumas. This can be extremely healing and karmic because a few days after, Venus will trine Chiron in Leo, Venus and Leo, healing of the heart, of a big heart, collective heartbreak. Or when Pluto transits a sign, the opposite sign of it also gets really, really beaten down. Leo is the opposite sign, and it is about the youth, the young spirit, children, the youth, students. I just gave the keyword. I don't even have to say anything. It is marked who are suffering and who need change the most. So that is definitely going to be highlighted in a big way. And Venus trine Chiron, but maybe there's healing potential here, a healing direction. Venus is still trying the North Node at this moment, sextiling the South Node. So love is a massive power here. Love is the gateway to miracles, really. But the most elevated love, Neptune and Pisces, where it's not the romantic or ego or earthly type of love. This is the love where the divine source is our parent, right? Then as good children, when things are tough, we give our shoulder to the parent. That's the most pure, unconditional love. We tolerate, we choose to be strong in love, in compassion, in truth. Remember the reality we want to generate for our parent, for harmony. The Christ consciousness simply said, this is what we must do with this energy. Um, So after this being said, I would like to invite everyone to look at how this energy might play out in the lives of the signs individually speaking. So this is where for the sign of Aries, well, this is a 10th house lunation. It is very, very strong. But looking at the way it converses with other planets, for example, Mars from the third house, Black Moon from the seventh house, there might be a challenge either in career, for example, a big project, a big choice, a big decision, or I don't necessarily want to say losing job or but maybe a decision to change a career, a new position out of the sudden became available that means losing your current position. So a big event, it doesn't matter the polarity, if it's a loss, Pluto, or if it's just a step up, a big upgrade, that's also Pluto in a way power. It doesn't matter because we need to look at it for what it truly is, and that is it gives us power, and that power freedom. Now, in order to tackle this, regardless if this is like a project, an offer that is too big for you and you don't even know what to do, or a change of position, a change of career, something happens in the company, some or a soul calling, 10th house, something that is very important to you on a soul level, a big culmination happens there. So the advice here is allow friends to help you. Friends, siblings, family, partner, there is help there. Don't be too proud to ask for advice or to ask for a shoulder. Allow help to get to you because Aries natives sometimes are hell bent to do something solo. If it's not solo, it's not me. make an exception because this can be very important. As I said, we don't know how this plays out, what kind of shocking news it is, career. It, as I said, regardless of the polarity, I guarantee you, you can turn this to your greater strength. For example, surprise, surprise, you lost your job. Trust the universe because maybe in 2 days, Jupiter, Mars, and Gemini, quick, 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 the job, the career opportunity, job, whatever of your dreams falls in your lap from a friend. So you know what I mean. Make this your own, especially because it's 10th house. Now moving on for natives born under the sign of a Taurus. This is where this falls into the 9th house. So what that means is that it can play out in a large number of different ways, but the baseline of that is still our worldview, our philosophies, our highest thinking, our highest principles. But this can be, for example, travels. This can be where it's long distance travel. It can be where it's about connection to foreign country, work wise or study wise. This can be about your qualification, a specialization, a diploma, or, for example, a PhD. What do I do with it? In the sense that, can I truly start a new career after all that sacrifice? Maybe this full moon, sorry, is going to tell you, yes, you can, because you can alchemize it. You don't have to play by the rules. The knowledge that you possess is always your own. Make it something unique. Turn it your own unique modus operandi. Use it in a totally unique way to you. Even if it's outside of the box, outside of the, how should I say, the cookie cutter, symbolically, even if no one else does it like this, but it can be something legal, especially for those natives who have anything like pending in court of justice or a big contract agreement, especially where an authority is involved, Saturn, right? So see how this plays out in your life. And ultimately, what value does this highlight in your life personally? Now, moving on, for natives born under the sign of Gemini, um, this is 8th house activity. So this can be a very potent psychological release. Release of a fear, release of a trauma, release of a blocked feeling. But you can see how this can go hand in hand with a secret, a revelation coming out of the closet in any way, shape, and form. And 8th house is also a house of sexual stuff. So it can even be literal. Um, this can also be, where they release a powerful feeling, they speak it out, or they have a moment of purge. And this purge, they can even experience it physically, where they might have like flu-like symptoms, runny nose, or a very small, short moment where they break down physically. My example is like cold and flu-like symptoms where the body eliminates. So put that in context. And after they feel good as new. So if this is around the time of the full moon, know that you're releasing. And it can very well be like a detox. This can also be very, very karmic. This can be something which gives Gemini natives power what to do with their reputation, with their public image. Maybe this can come as a reward, something positive from their career, but that might need some sacrifice, or there is an uncomfortable part or a powerful part to, because power, with great power comes great responsibility. So see how this play, and this of course financial, eighth house, eight second axis. This can be a decision with a loan, money, inheritance, some anything that is like financial tactics and money other people share, you share with other people. For example, contracts before the money reaches your pocket. You know what I mean? So moving on to natives born under the sign of Cancer, this is seventh house activity. And so partnership, is it something that you project on your partner? Because that means that the sun, the main luminary, is in your sign. So you, something that has to do with you, your ego, your identity. When I say ego, not necessarily in a bad way, ego, your story, specifically you, very subjectively you project on your partner, for example, um, and how your partner reacts. Or this can also be where something happens in the life of your partner, and well, since it's a partnership, like passively, actively, you're also involved. What's your position? What's your attitude? Maybe, for example, you have to help your partner, and you have to, like, it's urgent, it's serious, full moon in Capricorn. How do you do it? Because helping the partner might feel very overwhelming to you. It can be hard, it can be so, but it can be something that happens in the life of your partner, and it affects you more than them. So it is an emotional energy. The moon in the seventh house is like the Two of Swords tarot card, if you know what I mean. Making decision, weighing something, but the blindfold is also on our eyes. We might not immediately know what to do. We might need to sit with the feeling, with the truth, with whatever. We might have to really, really use our strongest discernment. Uh, seventh house. The seventh house is like Libra, head, but also the heart. Um, so a big truth, because as I said, anything that impacts the seventh house, well, it also has something to do with the first. So it's very personal and an impact. And when I say partner, I don't just mean Cancer natives who are in an established bond. Seventh houses, even for example, ridiculously enemies, known enemies, a seventh house, one-on-one contracts, one-on-one alliances. So anyone can fall into this seventh house. It's not just romantic partnerships, anything, associate, colleague sometimes. So boss, okay, boss is more like 10th, but still, you know what I mean. Moving on, for natives born under the sign of Leo, well, this takes place in the sixth house. So, on one hand, you guys might experience something physical as well, because the sixth house is quite a physical house. It can be like a moment of culmination, a moment of fatigue, or a moment of breakdown. However, keep in mind, whatever happens here, the universe is inviting you to take a break from your routines, from your usual plans, to reflect on something, or to realize the importance, to eliminate a habit, and I wanted to say hobby before. And now that I think of it, sometimes absolutely a hobby, something that we love ultimately, right? But if it doesn't serve us, if it's in a way futile, it became futile in our, why not? To look at the starkest truth, either something to do with our health and our relation to our health, or our what we do with our time, our daily routines, as going as rudimentarily as our daily schedule, how we manage our time on a daily basis, and this includes work in a sense, not career, rather how the career plays out, the modus operandi, the schedule, but also our personal everything. But it can go as high as modus vivendi, our lifestyle. So, what truth is being reflected? Again, either medically speaking, or time management, or something at work, a change at work, because that's also time management. Just that it's not from the perspective of career, but rather the modus operandi, what you do. So, this is where it can play out in so very many different ways, but go with the flow. If it's elimination, if it's like a release, a tension, a breakdown, it's the good one. So don't judge the book by its cover. You know what I mean? Give this energy the chance to play out for what it is. Uh, but one last thing before I move on. Uh, if this is sixth house, that means the sun illuminates this from 12th house. So the 12th house is also on one hand medical, but it can be a secret. It can also be maybe karmic, maybe a psychological release that has a physical effect on it or about it as well. It can be more, it can play out more than one way. It can be mysterious as well because of the 12th house sun. Now, moving on to natives born under the sign of Virgo, this is fifth house. So, the way I see this is like a moment of surrender. Something seems a certain way, something that has to do, with their passions, what they love, romance, fifth house, romantic center, but replace romance with everything that basically sparks your heart space. Just a moment, please. A sip of water. Thank you. So, the heart space, what makes the heart burn? What makes the heart beat? What makes the heart tick? In any way, shape, and form. So, this energetic a moment of culmination, a truth where you have to surrender, either because something that you want, desire, passion, uh is simply not yet under your control. Timing, Saturn, right? Timing, date, resources, when, how. So, long story short, this energy asks you to not to abandon something, but to accept the truth about something, that it's not yet under your control. There's nothing you can do about it. So surrender it until the opportunity comes, or more time passes, or things evolve a certain way, which gives you more choice, more power, whatever that is. But as I said, this can also be romantic energy. What surprises you? Because we cannot ignore sextile with Neptune. This does have a Neptune in Pisces, romantic, really rose tinted side to it if we necessarily want to look at it. But to which degree is it true? And Pluto, what to make of it? So the truth, remember, the truth gives power. It frees up your heart. You know where you stand on a heart level. So observe whatever comes your way, whatever will shock you on a heart level a little bit. And Virgo natives who know that they have high blood pressure, at least under this full moon, try to not stress yourself more than it's necessary. Moving on to natives born under the sign of Libra, well, this is fourth house. So this is immediately either it might be family, family karma, family discussions, family, something to do with family, either house, but house in a serious sense. Either something happened already or something is happening and it needs a choice, a decision. Do I move? Do I relocate? Do I upgrade? Do I redecorate? Do I transform something radically? And this is not just aesthetic transformation, a new need arises. And you need to transform a part of your house, for example, or something comes. But again, this can also be family karma, karmic stuff, perhaps something to do with inheritance, something to do with a choice, something to do with family dynamics, or the past, ancestry, where it is that you feel more at home, having to choose your home, for example. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to mean something negatively shocking. You have more than one choices and you simply cannot decide where you'll be happier because you love every choice. A good example, which is positive and still overwhelming and hard, and you don't know what to do. It blocks you. So, but it's also powerful because you want to get it right. So, see how this plays out in your life. And the advice here, not to make hasty decision, allow this energy to sink in. Because remember Saturn, you really need to master what you feel. Now, moving on to natives born under the sign of Scorpio, well, this energy is quite either mental or it has to do with communication, shorter distance travels, so going here and there. And what happens while uh, traveling? But when I say travel, this can also be to uh, go to a certain place, even if it's very short distance, for the sake of certain activities. So a surprise invitation, a surprise request of help, a surprise phone call, some kind of surprise which will mobilize. But this can also be an communication energy. Someone phones you up to ask you for a counsel and advice, to ask you for something, and it leaves a strong impact on you. It fires up your mind. It makes you really think. It makes you really cause a neural storm within you, even if it's not necessarily your own life, but Gemini. By Gemini because the third house is the house of Gemini. Uh, the other, the other situation has the same impact on you as if it would be your own. It can be a sibling, a cousin, a very good friend. So it matters. It causes a storm of ideas, of thinking, of what to do. Some you're invited somewhere, or you meet someone. This can also be the case. Someone who you never thought you were going to meet again in this incarnation. There it is, the meeting. And then you can imagine how the good will flow from that. But you can also imagine the moment of shock. But this can also represent the opposite for Scorpio natives, where it's busy, there is so much going on around you, and you say that no. I'm gonna stop and totally disconnect my mind, shut off my mind, because I need peace and quiet, and I need to stay in my uh, unaffected energy by others. So this can also lead to a moment like that where there's an emotional outburst, an emotional outburst or an emotional release, leading to a moment of silence and spending some time with the self, contemplating something. But contemplation is not necessarily overthinking, quite the opposite. Just checking in how we feel about something rather than what we think in a mercurial slash Virgo way. Now, moving on to natives born under the sign of Sagittarius, this is second house, so value. Of course, this can play out as an unexpected expense. Surprise, surprise, I have to cough up a large sum of money. But remember the trine and the sextile and Pluto as well. Well, it can, whatever you cough up for, it might be important, significant. For example, it can be fated. Your washing machine broke. Exactly that moment. Why washing machine? Neptune and Pisces, the wash and the, culmination. And it's fated because repairing it or fixing it or whatever, buying a new one, will be very important from perspectives that you will yet to find out. Or it broke down now, not to cause major damage at a certain moment in the future when it would make your life purely hell. So, fated from more than one way. So, but it can also be that something you want it, you see it, you want it, you can't stop yourself. Pluto, it just pulls you into the purchase or transaction, whatever that is. But it can also be like a surprise from a partner, a gift, a second house that can also be receiving. It's an elimination, but from the part from whoever gave the gift. It can be a tribute. It can be. It can play out another way around where you have to spend money, the big expense, but to help out, pull out your partner or someone special, important, friend, ally, whatever, from the deep, or someone asks for a loan. So see how it plays out, but it highlights a value within you. Because, for example, if you receive something valuable, it speaks about your value. If someone asks you to give them, help them out, for example, that speaks about the level of trust and, you know, the level of openness that they trust you at their most vulnerable, and a partner, friend, family that is very easily understandable in this sense. So see how this plays out in your life because the universe will speak about your value. Moving on to natives born under the sign of Capricorn, Capricorn full moon, well, very deeply personal, and the second in your sign. So maybe for you guys, personally speaking, the most is how the 22nd June full moon makes a totally new sense or something began that period and now it comes to fruition culmination. So it's really about you. It highlights something about you, your position, your role, the impact on others upon you, how you react to someone, something. Like this might be a really weird example, but first house is like genetics, right? Where someone at the first full moon applied for a genetic test like, I don't know, ancestry or how you call it, and now they get the results and it's shocking. It it speaks to them in more than one way. This is like an example, but first house and genetics, something that activates within us, a skill, a talent, and the full moon. So this is being illuminated from the seventh house. Others, what do others project upon us? A truth, a light, a feedback, an opinion, a reaction. So see how this plays out and what this tells you, because this is very, very reflective. Words, communication, it is a truth about the self, but seen from a deeper way. It might be not 1,000,000% obvious what the higher meaning is straight away, but it won't take you long to figure it out. I can tell you that. And moving on to the natives born under the sign of Aquarius, well, this is 12th house. This is very psycho emotional. This can be karmic. This can be relation with the self. This can be mysterious. This can be divine. This can even be paranormal, supernatural, where something really blows your mind. Something karmic that happens in your life, for example, or something that you see and witness going back to a previous existence, for example, through a therapy, through something, a deja vu moment, a karmic moment, something manifests, an alchemical moment, something to do with family, something to do with family karma, something to do with, like, let's put it in a more realistic context. A big forgiveness releases an old, stale feeling, a grudge, a resentment you had against a family member, against an ex, against someone from your distant past, from your childhood. You release that, and it clears in so very many different ways. So this is, or it can be a big, big truth. Pisces, sorry, 12th house, what I wanted to say is hidden enemies. I said the seventh house is declared known enemies. Then the 12th house is those enemies, karmic enemies, we usually don't see and cannot see and should many times should not see. Because many times karmic enemies live together and are lovers. And this is where the term karmic enemy, and I'm so sorry for this little detour, is understood in such a wrong way. That doesn't mean we have to hate each other. Karmic enemy means that we, two souls, have a very different, divergent, philosophical, or divine approach about something. And that difference is not going anywhere. It is not being harmonized. But that difference can be played out because karmic enemies means that with that you meet the person amongst so many other things also to see in this specific incarnation where that conflict, ideological conflict, or conflict in spirit, whose take on it is more accurate, for example, to do something with that balance, to make an agreement, to alchemize it into something. But that doesn't mean you have to hate. You can be lovers. You can be best friends. You can be daughter, mother, father, son, children, parents, neighbors, friends for life, anything. Because you can love each other dearly, because that won't make the difference go anywhere but the difference doesn't have to be conflictual, dark. It can be like a permanent joke, a permanent source of humor, a permanent rivalry in something, a permanent competition. And this can play out in the most playful, delightful, joy and happiness generating way possible. So karmic enemies, but it makes the players happy ultimately because they're on an adventure. They love it. They love being each other's partners. So why this? I'm so sorry for this very short explanation. This is why sometimes karmic enemy is the best possible thing that could happen to you, because that can be the most loving soul. You know what? And the other way around. Karmic ally and partner can be the harsh teacher who, pulls your ear a bit. Wake up, son or daughter. Do the right thing. So they might come with very critical words that might wound us, and we might be so angry at them. Why did you disrespect me? And they're actually not a karmic enemy. They're our best ally who actually helped us in a tough way. So this is where karmic relationships are much more complicated than they seem, or many times they're actually the opposite of what they seem. So this can be a very, very karmic energy that will reveal ultimately a karmic connection in your life and what you think about it. And I'm so sorry for making this too long. And finally, for natives born under the sign of Pisces, well, this is 11th house. This is either where what is being revealed about a hope, an aspiration, a dream, a big goal, a big principle, a big element of faith, but that which you choose to follow, what is going to be revealed. Now, let me give you an example because it's easier to understand it like that. When a Pisces native changes her political view, political alignment. I no longer want to be part of, and insert here big connections, big ideological connections. This party, this church, this group of people, this charity organization, whatever. I don't want to be part of this anymore. But Pluto, I'd rather be part of that. You know what I mean? But this can also play out very deeply personally. My hopes and dreams, aspirations. What dream? What goal? What things that you aspire towards deems to be, let's say, unaccomplishable in a way you thought previously, and you release that because you find a much better way. You find a new friend, a new connection, a new ally, a new ideology, a new group of friends, a new principle that strongly resonates and it shocks you. So it can play out in very many different ways, but it can also play out more simply. Something happens to a friend of yours that shocks you. Something happens um, to an acquaintance or someone who you're connected to, but not very deeply. Maybe that connections becomes much tighter, much deeper. A friend, an acquaintance turns a transformation of Pluto. A friend turns into more than a friend. Situationships or where friendship will have a touch of sexual connection to it. That's also very strongly possible because Pluto, strong Plutonian influence. So this concludes the horoscope for the 12 signs individually. Thank you so much again, everyone, for listening. My final, and I'm going to stop sharing now. My final word of advice here is that remember love. Love is going to be our greatest strength. But in order for us to be able to use the strength of love, the strength of the heart, the strength of creation locked deep within us, we really need to look at the greatest truth that this energy is revealing to us personally. And even if they're hard to look at, that, believe me, that is the greatest gift the universe can give us. How we feel truly, honestly, starkly about someone, something, and situation, because that gives us power to go towards the opposite and hold balance. So, what to do with the strength of our love? What to do with the strength of our faith? Where do we invest our creation energies? Because Aquarius and Capricorn, how these two signs connect to one another. The collective has a great deal of influence over us energetically, spiritually, quantically, even. But that is perfectly true, vice versa. And right now, it is vice versa that matters more, like the Schrodinger's cat. Reality is just a question of perspective. So as soon as you see it, you observe it, it becomes more and more real. So let's do this with love and compassion. So thank you everyone for listening. And thank you so very much, Nadiya, for giving me this great, great honor. And I can wish everyone only love and blessings at the time of this full moon. Thank